guys of all ages were contacting me, including 18-year-olds. I discovered the granny fantasy. They would say, oh, well, I've always wanted to play with an older lady. And I thought, well, why not? They will message me on the day. Hi, Caroline. Are you around at all? It might be for a 15-minute quickie. Hi, I'm Caroline Vee, also known as Busty Granny. I'm 73 and I'm an escort.
Talk to me about how you became an escort at 73.
That is kind of a long story. I was a Christian for 40 years. I got completely disillusioned with the church because I suffered from mental health problems. People in the church were absolutely lovely, but they didn't understand mental health. And all they could say was, let me pray for you. But after 40 years of none of their prayers, or none of my prayers, let alone theirs, being answered, I got to the point and I thought, you know what? I don't even know if there is a God. And if there is, he don't give a stuff about me.
So you did have sex before you joined the church?
When I was 17, I met guys, but the sex wasn't good. But actually, in all the churches I have been in, which are a few over the years in different places, it was no sex outside of marriage. That was why I hadn't had any sex for 40 years. But I had been chatting to a guy from work who was a 27-year-old rugby player. I was 57 at the time, so we just did friendly banter on the phone. When are we going away for a dirty weekend, etc., etc. I contacted him because there was some problem in the office and said, oh, come on, tell me the gossip. And he said, oh, well, I can't tell you now, but if you're on Facebook tomorrow, I'll tell you. So I went on Facebook and he told me what had been going on. He invited me over to his place because he said he'd got a thing about cougars. I didn't even know the name at that point because I'd been a Christian for 40 years. So I had to look it up. I didn't go. And later in the evening, he rang me up and said, well, where are you then? Oh, you were serious? I went, well, of course I was. And I went, well, not really, of course. So I didn't go, but I had been getting emails from a dating sex site. So I thought, well, if a 27-year-old rugby player thinks I'm sexy, then let's go and have a look. Not having had sex for 40 years. So I looked and I joined, and guys of all ages were contacting me, including 18-year-olds. I thought 27 was bad. What about an 18-year-old? You know, being young enough to be my son is one thing. Being young enough to be my grandson is just wrong on so many levels. And they would go, no, babe, age is just a number. Yeah, but a very important one. But I met a guy there who was nearer my age. I think he was just a few years younger. He was local to me, so went for a drink, got on really well, had a good laugh in the pub. A week later, I think it was, we went for a meal. And then he was away in Canada, and when we were messaging, he said, would you come to a hotel with me? So I thought, yeah. You know, I knew him quite well by then. He went down on me, which had never happened before. I thought I'd better return the favour, so to speak. And so he got me to the point where I enjoyed sex. He was a married man, but I fell in love with him. After a while, I began to notice that things were different between us. And I saw a side of him I didn't like. He decided he only wanted to be friends, you know, not lovers, which was quite odd, considering he still wasn't getting any at home. We kind of split up, didn't have any contact for quite a few months, I think. I'd met a few other guys on the site by then, and there was one particular guy who came round to see me, and when he left, he said, I've been going to a club for the last few months. You should join me. I thought, okay. And it was a swingers club, which of course I had never heard of. So I went, very naive that I was about swinging, went there. He introduced me to 4 of his other friends. They showed me round, we got chatting, and showed me round to the dungeon and the glory hole and the dark room and the cell. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I gave a couple and I got a couple of massages, I think. And so I was more an observer. I was sitting there thinking, not quite sure how much I want to join in this. And left thinking, wow. And my friend, the friend who and he invited me. He said, so what do you think? And I went, well, it's a bit wild, isn't it? He said, well, it can be because it was a party night, and then it gets really busy and all sorts go on. You should come back on a night when it's not a party night and it's more normal, and, you know, you just mingle with people and meet and whatever. So I did. A few weeks later, we went back. You could have people watching you through mirrors, and they could knock on the door and say, you know, would you mind if I joined you? And whoever I was with would always let me decide. Sometimes I did if I thought they were nice, and bit of all right. So I carried on doing that. And then this other guy got back in touch. So we started swinging together. I told him about the swinging. And so then we started going. We got a couples profile on there and single profiles on there as well. Some of the guys that I was meeting were going, you should do escorting. And at the time, I needed money. So when they said, you can, get paid for it, I thought, got to investigate this then, haven't I? I'm not sure whether I consciously thought, well, this is a hell of a long way away from the Christianity. I met two guys. One of them had met his girlfriend doing it, which I wasn't expecting. The other one had met his wife doing it, and he then carried on taking her to see her clients and take her home again. The guy with the girlfriend said, if you want to come up to Bedford, I can help you set up your profile on Adult Work, because that's where he'd met his girlfriend. So okay then, so I went up and he set it all up. And that's where it all started.
You said you have regular clients.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how many regular ones I've got, but I've got several. So one's a plumber, one's a heating engineer, I think. Don't even know what the third one does. They work local to me. They will message me on the day saying, oh yeah, hi Caroline, are you around at all? It might be for a 15-minute quickie. It might be for half an hour. Usually not more than half an hour, because it's usually they're in between jobs, so to speak. There are other guys that come for a longer period of time. So that would be for an hour. There's one guy who is my absolute favourite. Delightful, charming, gorgeous, yummy boy. And he's single. He's only 46, bless him. And that is the best time ever. He's really sweet. He's absolutely delightful. He's very sexy. He loves snogging, and I love snogging. That turns me on. And he always asks me to wear a particular thing, what colour lingerie he would like, or even a dress and whatever. Can you wear your red, or can you wear your black, or whatever. And it's fabulous. And sometimes he comes for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half.
So how many times a week are you having sex, roughly?
Well, it's becoming, I was going to say it's becoming less. At the moment, it could be none in a week, depending on everything else that I'm doing. Or it could be maybe 4.
Do you still enjoy sex, or do you see it as a job?
Oh no, I have never seen it as a job, actually. I can't do something if I don't enjoy it. The moment I start not enjoying a job, I leave. The escorting, I started it, and because I was doing the swinging, I think that probably helped. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I still thoroughly enjoy it, and I want to continue enjoying it and doing it for at least another 10 years. There's one escort that I know, and who's also one of my lovely boy. He's got 3 of us. And I'm the youngest at 73. The oldest is 88. If I can still be doing it at 88, I would be very happy. And as long as I'm able to, nobody knows, do they, what tomorrow brings. I have a broken hip, or, anything could happen between now and then. I'm healthy at the moment. I'm still fit and healthy. In the beginning, I would say probably in the first year, there were 2 20-year-olds separately, because that was when I discovered the granny fantasy. They would say, oh, well, I've always wanted to play with an older lady. And I thought, well, why not? I did have something on my bucket list, and still do, and that was I wanted to shag a virgin. And so they came, and because you always, on Adult Work, you always ask them what they're looking for. And some wanted them just have a kiss and a cuddle, others might want a blowjob, and others wanted penetration. In so many ways, they weren't really that much different from the 30-year-olds or the 40-year-olds.
Have you had any weird experiences, crazy experiences, unique experiences that you can tell us about?
I always say when people ask, I have 3. The guy with the nightie, who wanted me to wear one of his mother's nighties, and he was going to wear one of his mother's nighties. His dead mother's nightie, I have to emphasise. But he wanted me to come into the bedroom, find him watching on his laptop, and then I was to punish him. Most people call that weird. Then there is the guy that wanted me to a dog off. I put that into sick category rather than weird, where he offered me £1,000 to a dog off. And then he said, how much to the dog off? And I made it very clear that there was no way in a million years, and there is no amount of money he could give me to a dog off. And then the third one, the guy that wanted to eat my poo. Probably it could be on the sick side, it could be on the weird. I gather it's quite common though. So maybe a lot of people don't think it's that weird or that sick. So he came up And we went upstairs. So always sort out the paperwork downstairs, take the money, get that safe. And he was going, you should move to the Isle of Wight. Don't want to move to the Isle of Wight. Oh, no, but you should. No, I don't want to. And it's nice for a holiday, but wouldn't want to live there. Oh, but it's lovely. You know, he said, I used to think that, and now I love it there. And I said, well, that's nice for you, but trust me, I don't want to. But he kept on. And I was thinking, this guy is really pissing me off now. I'm going to enjoy watching him eat my poo and smother it all over his face. Because I can't do it on cue, I don't know anybody that can. I had to do it from my poo the day before. So he said, could you prepare it then for me beforehand? And I rolled it into 2 sausages, put it in cling film, firmly into foil, firmly wrapped so that nothing could escape, in a bag in the freezer to try and make it a bit harder. So I got it out and he wouldn't eat it. I let him put a very small, a long one, up my, because it was a long one. When it came out, it did have some residue on it, and he did lick it all off. And that gave me pleasure, because by that time I was thinking, I really don't like you. So he left and he got back home, and the next day he messaged me and he said the reason he didn't eat the poo is because he thought it was someone else's.
Talk to me about your family. How did they react when they found out what you were doing?
The weird thing is, I don't know how much they know. 11 years ago, got a phone call from somebody on the Jeremy Kyle show. I'm sitting on the sofa, you know, still haven't done escorting or anything like that, just a swinger and a star. And pick up the phone and this lady says, oh, hello, you know, is that whatever? My name's Bianca and I work for ITV. What? ITV? For the Jeremy Kyle show. Jeremy's seen this article in magazine and he's fascinated about you and he would like to interview about being a swinger and a star. So I went and did it, but the night before they put up a little preview on Facebook and my nephew's wife liked it. Oops. I thought, oh, which is obviously going to tell her husband, my nephew. Is he going to tell his mum, my sister? I would probably think he didn't at that time because I didn't hear anything. I think we'd all met for a funeral even, for relatives' funeral, and nothing came up. I've got 2 sisters and 1 brother who died 20 years ago now. So it got to 2010 and I think on the phone I had told them about going to America with this friend. And I obviously must have told him he was married, given that all of the family have had affairs, you know. Didn't think that was going to be such a big deal. It got to the Christmas of that year. And so what would happen was, whichever sister I was meant to go and stay with, would ring me up, say November time, and say, you know, would you like to come for us for Christmas? This particular year, the other sister that I wasn't due to go to, she rang me and we chatted as we normally would on the phone. And she said, my other sister, has she rung you? No, not yet. And I was dreading the phone call because I didn't actually want to go. Because of what? Because it was her and her husband that had been slagging me off. I might not have minded going to the other one, but not that one. So, and thankfully she never did. And then the next year came and that sister didn't ring me either. So after a number of years, and I think, so we'd had this funeral of my uncle. I'll say the decent sister, but I don't know what she thinks of me and I don't know what her husband thinks of me because they've never told me. She sent me a card before Christmas. We'd like for us all to get together at a time and place of your choosing to discuss how we've drifted over the last few years. I know why we've drifted, and so I didn't want to. I thought, no, I'm not interested. But I never said anything, and I said to my friend, I said, what am I going to do? I said, I can't say thank you for the card because I wish I hadn't got it. I can't say it was nice to hear from you because it wasn't. You know, I couldn't say, oh, that would be nice because I didn't want to. So it's like, so eventually I sent her an email. I gave her some dates in the January for Sundays because I was working 3 days a week. So I gave them dates for Sundays and, oh, we can't do weekends because of the engineering works. It wasn't a time and place of my choosing after all, was it? So she said, oh, well, maybe you could do it when you're not working. And then before I even had a chance to get back to her on that one, I got another email back saying, very formal, in view of certain revelations in the media, we do not think a meeting would be helpful. Great. So I replied to her, not knowing what they'd seen, because revelations in the media, that covers a whole lot, doesn't it? So I said, well, if you're referring to the swinging, there's not an occupation in the land where you won't find swingers. It's perfectly normal. They just don't talk about it. If you're talking about the porn, I said, then most men you will find up in their bedroom of an evening, having a little wank over some porn. or possibly in the office at work at lunchtime, doing the same, having a little wank under the desk. And when it came to the bedroom bit, I was referring to the husbands because both of the husbands, when I went to stay, always would say, "Gonna go up to the bedroom." You know, I've suffered from mental health problems all my life. I said, and my friends have always been there for me. They've loved me, they've supported me all the way through, and they do now. They may not want to do what I do, but they still love me and they support me, and they say, as long as I am happy and safe, then they're happy. It's a pity you couldn't do the same. And I've not heard a word since, so I don't have a clue what they have seen, because they haven't got the balls to actually come to me and say, you know, can we chat about it?
If a young Caroline, a 25 or 30-year-old Caroline could see what you're doing now, how do you think she would feel?
Because I was deeply involved in the church at that age, I could say brainwashed. You do believe everything you're told as a Christian, you know, whether it's the minister telling you in his sermons, whether it's the people, the congregation, you know, most of whom have been brought up as a Christian from early age, so they don't know anything different. Part of me sort of thinks I was kind of brave, not in the serious kind of way, but, you know, all of those beliefs, you know, not, for instance, not sleeping with a married man, you know, all of those things were embedded. I would have been shocked as much as the next person, I probably think, because A, I knew nothing about anything like that, you know, and B, because everything was forbidden. I mean, if I had met somebody at that time, for instance, doing it, I have never been a judgmental type of person. So I accept people for who they are. Like my friends, I accept you for who you are, not what you do. What I do is legal and we're not hurting anybody. So as long as people are not hurting anybody or doing anything illegal, then I'm fine. I may not want to do it myself, whatever that may be, but imagining myself doing it, no, of course not, because I thought I was going to be a Christian till the day I died.
Are you proud with the way your life has turned out?
Yes. I mean, I wish I had left the church earlier. I dearly wish, because for me, that is almost 40 wasted years. They didn't help me with my mental health problems in any way, shape or form, apart from saying, let me pray for you, or think of Job. So I had to leave the church to find the therapy. I am still not angry, not cross really, but disappointed that those churches and even churches today don't help people with mental health issues. Every church should have somebody that is trained in counselling, therapy or whatever, or who knows about what is available out in the real world. But they don't, and they still don't. And I keep saying in the comments after I've done something, when I get the religious people coming on saying, she needs Jesus, I shall pray for you, please repent and come back to, you know. If you watch the programme, never in a million years do I want to go back to that life. Because if I'd stayed in the church, I believe 100% I would now be dead. Because before I left the church was my last plan to take my own life. And it was only because I had to go to hospital and the ambulance contacted social services for me because of the state of my place, that I got to meet this therapist who then, well, I could say a miracle worker. 40 years of nothing compared to 7 hours of therapy. My life was transformed beyond all recognition. I haven't been depressed since. You know, I'm also of the belief that, you know, things happen not of a Christian thing, maybe of the universe, you know, whatever people believe in, that things happen at a time for a reason. And, you know, it probably wouldn't have happened if I'd left 10 years previously. Don't know. So I do wish it so to a certain extent, but then I think, well, at least it did happen and now I can live. I can be really, really, really happy with my life in all aspects of my life. There isn't any part of my life that I'm not happy. I feel completely transformed, want to live the rest of my life as much as I can, doing as many different things as I can, exploring what's out there, doing things like this. I help with various charities, you know, I can now do all of that. And so I filled my life with lots of good things. And I decided a couple of years ago, one of my friends, she was very negative towards me. And I decided, I don't want negative people in my life anymore because they just drag you down. And if people say to me, you know, got this friend, one of my neighbours, in fact, the other day, I was talking to her and she had a friend that used to block my car in. And anyway, long story. And so she said, oh no, we're not friends anymore. And I went, should I say, well done? Because she was a horrible woman, this other woman. It's really totally selfish and took up her time and was very demanding. And she said, I've decided I didn't want that anymore. And I said, good for you. And I told her about mine and the negative people. I said, don't feel guilty. People like that will drag you down. Don't feel guilty. Just get rid of them and surround yourself with good, positive people. You will be happy. And that's what I do.